How's it going, everyone? As we get closer to the NHL 17 beta and Pro Series playoffs are on the way with a $4,000 prize pool, it really got me inspired to make this video about competitive gaming. With esports and competitive gaming on the rise, the question I have for you guys is, will EA bring back the EASHL Invitational Tournament or some other tournament, whether it's for EASHL or 1 vs 1? I'm starting to think something might eventually happen, whether it's for NHL 17 or beyond that, I have no idea. I'm going to show you guys why I think it could happen and why it might not, but I think more of the evidence is starting to point towards yes, especially with some of the most recent NHL 17 changes that they announced. Maybe I'm just being crazy and a little bit too invested in this because personally I would love to be that goalie in the spotlight, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Either way, I'm going to show both sides of the argument and I'd like to hear your opinion on the matter. Now first, let me quickly go over what the tournament was in case you've never heard of it. In NHL 09 and NHL 10, EA hosted the EASHL Invitational Tournament. The top clubs, they used the leaderboards as a guide, from Xbox and PlayStation would participate in a playoff. The top Xbox and PlayStation team would be invited to EA to play a best-of-7 series. Now this was a fantastic idea at the time to help promote EASHL, as it was a new game mode at the time, and it worked. Tons of people were playing it. And then in NHL 11, as teams were starting to prepare for this tournament, EA announced that they were not going to run it anymore. So let's fast forward a bit. December of 2015, EA creates their own gaming division. Basically their own esports leagues featuring EA games, Battlefield, FIFA, and Madden, which just held a $1 million tournament being their main features. Now in my opinion, it would not look good for EA if they somehow didn't include all of their sports games to go along with FIFA and Madden. They have to show that they have faith in their own products, so I can see them trying to implement the NHL series somewhere down the line, even if it's on a much smaller scale. And with esports revenue projected to reach a potential $1 billion by as early as 2019, EA would want to do everything possible to get a big piece of that pie. Now very recently, NBA 2K ran a Pro-Am tournament with a $250,000 prize to the winners. And just in case you don't know what Pro-Am is, it's basically basketball's version of ESHL. 5 vs 5, all humans, no computers, and just working as a team. Now NHL has a much smaller fan base than either of those franchises. NHL 16 sold just over 1 million copies, compared to NBA 2K at a little bit over 3.5 million, and Madden at around 7.25 million. So Madden's almost 7 times that NHL size. A little over 1 million sales might not seem like a big number, but it actually is the first time in the last couple years where it did cross the 1 million mark, so the game is slowly becoming more popular. If Madden can run a $1 million tournament and NBA 2K can run a tournament with $250,000 going towards the winner, what can NHL offer? Because it's such a small series compared to everyone else. I think that could potentially be a problem, but personally, I don't think they would even need to offer much. If I remember correctly, there was no cash prize in the NHL 09 and NHL 10 tournament. I believe it was just a trip to EA, a trophy, and then I think you were able to meet some NHL players. I do think they would need to offer a little bit more than that in this day and age, but considering Pro Series has a $4,000 prize pool and more teams signed up this season than ever before, it does show that the community is still interested in a competitive scene, and they will show up to play in a tournament setting. And as we all know, NHL fans are crazy passionate about their sport, and I do think some of that would actually translate into the esports world as well. Now the biggest obstacle that will determine whether this could happen, which goes along with NHL not having a large fan base, is money. In the end, it is a business and it's always about money. Will the cost of running an NHL tournament be worth it to EA? Now it's not going to be like the big name games where they're renting out arenas for multiple nights, but however they would decide to run it, it's going to have to be beneficial. You're probably not looking at immediate profits like tickets sold for the big name games, but you're probably looking more at advertising and publicity that this could potentially create for future games. And with the fan base as small as NHL, you're probably leaning more towards the publicity side of things. One of the most recent announcements for NHL 17 has started to get me to believe that something could happen, and that is goalies quitting in EASHL will result in a loss for that club. Now, why does this actually matter? Well, remember, EA doesn't want the leaderboards, and they use that as a guide back in NHL 9 and 10 to pick their teams. They don't want the leaderboards being affected by teams who start with a goalie, and then after a few minutes, that goalie quits and they play with a computer. Now, anybody who plays NHL competitively, whether it's for ESHL, HUT, online versus, you know that the leaderboards, they haven't mattered for a long time. They aren't accurate, and any change that affects the leaderboards is a big deal, and I don't think this was done randomly. EA is taking measures to help legitimize the leaderboards as much as possible, and that is the only logical reason I can see behind this change after years of ignoring the formula that they had beforehand. So that's all I have for you guys about this. I'll provide a couple of links in the description below to show where I got some of my information. What I'd like to know from you guys is, do you think that this could happen, or maybe it won't happen? You know, what are some reasons you have behind it? Or would you actively support competitive NHL? Like, if it's a main game you play, would you sit down and try and play and participate in it? Or would you be someone who just sits and watches the best players on Twitch if that was available? Maybe something that you just don't care about and you wouldn't watch no matter what. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to click the like button, and thanks for watching.